Hey Brave Nation, welcome back into another episode of Brave Hawk Talk on the UNCP Sports Network. I'm John Gross and really so happy to have you with us once again. Hope that you're all staying home, staying safe, staying healthy, washing hands, and practicing proper social distancing. Really good show for you today. We start off with Katie Flax of the UNCP golf team. Katie is the Scotland Health Student Athlete of the Week. And then we wrap up today's show with UNCP soccer head coach Lars Anderson. Here's our newest episode of Brave Hawk Talk on National Student Athlete Day. Katie, thank you so much for joining me on Brave Hawk Talk. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So we've been starting off pretty much every guest that we've had, just kind of checking in on how you've been and how your family's been during this tough time.
Yeah, I'm starting to settle in a little bit more. The first week of being at home, it was a little crazy, just trying to get everything online and start taking all my classes online, and then just adjusting to being inside all the time. I'm so used to being active and doing everything, having to lay low like we are now. It was hard at first, but I understand it, and I understand that we got to do it. So it's been an adjustment, but I'm starting to settle in now.
So I graduated from college last May, and I could not imagine having to take classes, maybe one or two classes per semester online, but a full course load online. So what's that adjustment been like for you?
Yeah, it's definitely an adjustment. I'm a chemistry major, so I have labs. So my first question when they said all of our classes are going to go online, my first thought was, okay, well, how am I going to do labs? So it's definitely been interesting. We are doing virtual labs online, and just there's a lot more interaction with. I'm having to ask a lot more questions just so I understand the material more. And from that aspect, it's been good. I feel like we've grown closer to our professors this way because they're kind of learning right along with us. So it's been great just to see the professors just really committed to helping us get through the semester too.
So I want to transition a little bit to your career here at UNCP, and I guess really staying on topic of the COVID-19 pandemic. The UNCP golf team was either one of or the final event of the 2019-2020 athletic season. You were out in California, right, when all this kind of disrupted the sports world?
Yes, we were. We left for California on Friday, and we got done with our practice round on Sunday, and our coach looked at his phone and said, oh, it looks like we might have to do a 14-day quarantine when we get back, because at that time, California was one of the first states that had gone into a state of emergency. So we were panicked about that, but it seems like every day after we'd get off the golf course, it was just more development. And then by, I guess it was Friday when we finished our final round, we knew at that point that our entire season was canceled. So it was very bittersweet from that aspect, but we were grateful that we were able to finish our season in California because that was a great experience for sure.
When you were out there playing it, and the only reason I ask this is because I golf a bit, obviously not at a super high level, but I know it's such a mental sport. So were you thinking about that when you were golfing, that this situation is going on? Did that impact, do you think, how you played maybe?
Yeah, so I have actually been fighting an injury. So I sat out the second tournament in California, but so sitting there and walking with the girls that second tournament and just watching our other senior, Casey Burrows, I walked in with her last 3 holes, and it almost made it more emotional for me walking alongside my senior teammate that I had spent 4 years with, and just getting to experience that together. But at the time that I was playing the first tournament in California, that Monday and Tuesday, we felt it coming. We felt that we were either going to be cut short with our season or we were going to have to miss a couple tournaments. So I felt like I definitely was grinding it out a little harder. Those the things that you have to overcome for me make me work harder and want to do better. And definitely in golf, it's a mental game. And sometimes if you grind too hard, the opposite effect happens. But for me, it just kind of made me focus in more. Like, this could be your last collegiate tournament. This could be your last time being able to play for a team. So it was definitely a very special time.
So you're now in your senior year, and again, talked about the season was cut short and you're taking your classes online, but when you look back at your time at UNCP, what do you make of your career and your experience as a whole?
Yeah, definitely when I look back, freshman year me would not have seen the success that I feel like I've seen over my 4 years. I came into UNCP, and I was an okay golfer. I wasn't great. Definitely not what I thought a collegiate golfer would have the potential to do. But I got here, and I've won 2 individual tournaments by myself, and we've won a couple team tournaments as well. And, I look back, and I did pretty well, a lot better than I would have thought I would have as a freshman, coming in as a freshman. It's definitely an experience that I have treasured, and I've loved every minute of it. It's been hard at times, but it's definitely been a great experience. And the success that I have had, just individually and as a team, I just wouldn't trade it for the world.
You mentioned the improvement from day one at UNCP to where you are now. What are some of the parts of your game that you really feel like you honed in on?
I think that I've always been pretty consistent with my driver and my irons, but Coach Simon and some of the other girls on the team really helped me with my putting. Putting is half the game. People say you drive for show, putt for dough, and it is totally the case. My putting improved drastically my first year. We spent a lot of the fall season, my freshman year, changing my swing or changing my putting stroke, and I ended up changing putters. And one of the faculty members said, "Hey, try this one out." Dr. Anderson, I don't know if you know him, but he actually let me try out this putter. So I ended up being able to use that one, and I won my first collegiate tournament with that putter first time out. So wow. I said, I think I might have to keep this for a while. So that was pretty cool. But definitely my putting has been what has grown the most over the 4 years.
And the saying, drive for show, putt for dough, that's something that my mom always says and has always stuck with me. So I'll put you on the spot here for a second, because I think, I'm guessing some of our listeners are golfers. What would your advice be to improve at putting?
Oh, man. I would say don't overthink it. Sometimes overthinking, it just makes everything worse. You want to just want to get where you're going in mind and just step up and feel it. Don't overthink it. Don't say, "Oh, I need to play this much break. I need to hit it. It's uphill. I need to play this much for the uphill." Just feel it. I think sometimes that's easier said than done, of course, but just don't overthink it. That would be the best advice.
Hey, that is phenomenal advice. Taking a look at some of your bio information, I see that you are a Disney fanatic.
Oh, yes. Huge Disney fan. Anybody that knows me knows how obsessed I am with Disney, for sure.
Do you have a list of favorite Disney movies or shows?
Oh,
if you can give me a top 3.
Okay. Well, I have to say that I'm a little partial to Frozen. A lot of people tell me that I look like Anna. I love Anna's personality, so I'm a little partial to Frozen. But Frozen for sure, and then Lion King is a close second. It's a great movie. I love that movie. And then, I might have to say I'd stick with one of the classics, like Cinderella. I just really like the classics too. So that's a hard question for a Disney fanatic. But if I had to narrow it down, it would be those 3.
and have you been to Disney World or Disneyland?
Yes, I have been a couple times, and actually, I think it was it might have been my sophomore year. We were actually playing a tournament for UNCP during spring break, and we convinced our coach to let us go up a day early, and we went to Disney for a day, and that was great fun. It's different going with your family than going with friends, and sometimes some of the other girls had never been to Disney, so being able to experience that with new Disney fans, it was a lot of fun.
Were you like the tour guide, the Disney expert on that trip?
I tried to be. I'm not huge into the rides at Disney. I'm more about the experience of the characters and the shows and all the little things that some people don't really notice, the little things in the corners, not necessarily the big rides. But I think we all had a great time. It was a really good bonding experience for sure.
You talked about it earlier, but on the academic side of things, you're studying chemistry and you're on a pre-med track. What has that been like, balancing it with being a student athlete? Because I know that's one of the tougher concentrations.
Right. I'm sure there were times that my coach was not very happy with me, but class schedules was probably the biggest thing that we had to overcome. A lot of times when you get into the more advanced chemistry and science courses, there's only one section of labs, and they might be in the afternoon. Well, that's our practice time. So it took a lot of just kind of changing around schedules, and sometimes I'd practice in the morning, and sometimes I just had to practice on my own. That was kind of one of the major hurdles that we had to overcome. But also just having to balance both. And I'm wanting to go into medical school at some point, so I had to keep up my grades. So it became a real balance between student and athlete. And I've told my coach and some of my other teammates, there's a reason student comes before athlete. There might be some times where I have to be a student before I'm an athlete. And that was difficult at times, but it was the decision I had to make at the time so that I could maintain my good grades, and just for the future, that was more important.
Do you know what type of doctor you want to be?
I'm looking at pediatrics right now. I love kids, and I think that my love for Disney would work very well in that field as well. So
that's for sure. Okay, we'll wrap it up with a fun question here. We've been wrapping up all of our interviews with different type of either fun or thoughtful questions. So I'll throw it out for you. If you were to write an autobiography, what would the title of your book about yourself be?
Oh, man. I would have to say, goodness, that's a hard question.
You can take as much time as you need to think about it.
I would have to say, I'd probably steal from Disney and use a phrase there and just say Hakuna Matata. I feel like that has been my motto through life. You just, it means no worries. And I think that in hard situations or when you're dealing with challenges, Hakuna Matata is the way to go. Just don't worry about it and just take it as it comes. So I would probably steal from Disney. I don't know if that would be allowed, but I would like to call it Hakuna Matata, I think.
Hakuna Matata, the Katie Flack story, hitting bookshelves soon.
Sounds good.
Katie, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. Best of luck the rest of this semester and making things work with the online classes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Again, a huge thank you to Katie for joining us on today's episode of Brave Hawk Talk, and that brings us now to our second guest on today's episode, none other than UNCP soccer head coach Lars Anderson. Talked with us a little bit about an interesting experience he had overseas just a couple of weeks ago, and also about the impact of the sports stoppage may have on the UNCP soccer program. Coach, thank you so much for joining us here on Brave Hawk Talk. Really excited to get things started. But first, I just want to check in and see how you and your family have been doing during this tough time.
Well, I've been doing well. I was a little concerned. I was in England when it really started to kind of become a big deal over here in the United States and in Europe. It had already hit, obviously, Italy, but I was in England, and it was a pleasure trip. It had nothing to do with work. I went to England to watch my favorite English EPL team, Wolverhampton, play, and went to that match, which ended up being Wolverhampton's last match as it stands right now of the EPL season. And then I actually took a tour of the Emirates Stadium, which is where Arsenal play, which got a little scary because when I got back to the United States, I found out that the manager of Arsenal, Mikel Arteta, tested positive for COVID-19, and I believe 5 Arsenal players did. And we took a tour where I actually walked through Coach Arteta's office, but I self-quarantined for 14 days when I got back, and I've had no signs and symptoms. So all is well at the Anderson household. It's a little crazy. I'm working from home. My wife is still able to go to work, but all 4 of our children are obviously doing their schoolwork from home. So it's a little crazy, but I'm not complaining for sure. Obviously, there are a lot of people that are in a lot worse situations than we are, so we're blessed.
And I was going to ask you about that England trip, because you look at England now, and I guess they were maybe a little bit behind in terms of the development of everything. But, I mean, Boris Johnson, their prime minister, has now been hospitalized, and it's getting much more serious over there. So you were able to get the game in, and I remember that's something that a lot of us were thinking about, whether you'd be able to go to this game. But if you want to just talk a little bit more about that trip, because the genesis of all of it is pretty fascinating, I think.
Well, so I have been a fan of the Wolverhampton Wanderers of the English Premier League for a long, long time. As a matter of fact, I became a fan of that team when they played in what was then known as the English First Division. I was about 9 years old, and I jokingly say if you said up, I said down. If you said left, I said right. Growing up, everyone in Sweden liked Bjorn Borg, the great tennis player, where I liked 2 Americans, John McEnroe and Jimmy Connors, who were his adversaries at the time. I was always that kid who was a little bit different, wanted to go walk down a different path, and at that time, everyone loved the Tottenham Hotspurs and the Manchester United, and of course, the great Liverpool teams of the 70s and 80s. And I just decided I was going to like a team that no one else had ever heard of or really paid much attention to. So I picked Wolverhampton Wanderers more or less at random. I loved the color of the uniforms. I loved their logo, and it just sort of came about in an organic way how I fell in love with this team, and I've followed them ever since. And this is a club that's had enormous struggles. They were at one point down in the English 4th Division, which is now known as League 2, which is the lowest level of full-time professional football in England, and almost got relegated out of professional football. And now, obviously, they're back in the English Premier League. They're doing extremely well. They qualified for the knockout stage of Europa League, which has obviously now been put on hold. But it was a lifelong dream of mine to go to this game. I had planned on going to a game at the Molineux, the home ground of the Wolverhampton Wanderers, and I planned on going last year, and it just didn't work out. And I kind of sort of put my plans on ice, and then my wife, got in touch with some of my friends back home. Unbeknownst to me, she used Coach Padilla, she used Bull Slavin, and she used some of my players, and really pulled off an amazing surprise. I had no idea I was going. I found out about 4 days before I left for the trip, so that made it even more special. And to add to that, 2 of my friends from Sweden, my childhood friends, I mean, these guys I've known since I was in kindergarten, joined me in in England. They flew in from Sweden and joined me in England. So it was triple lifetime. It was 3 childhood friends who had an opportunity to live out their football fantasy. And it was, other than the fact that the game was a draw, it was a game against Brighton. The game wasn't very high quality, but we had an amazing time, and the entire trip was absolutely amazing. But you're right. When we were in England, you could sense that the concern over COVID-19 was growing really over the 5 days I was there, and I was getting concerned about being able to return to the United States, which obviously I'm back. I was successful in doing so. But the last 2 days, I I was concerned whether I was going to be able to return because England was starting to shut things down, but obviously that worked out well, and the trip was a complete success and was truly amazing.
You know, when you look at this situation and how it's impacted sports here in the United States, in particular at the collegiate level, I think on the front end and in the immediate time, people think about the winter sport championships and the spring sport seasons. But when you really think about it, this also has a major impact in fall sports like women's soccer. Obviously, this is an important time of the off season, but who knows how long this thing can last and how long sports can be impacted for. So for the time being, at least, how has some of these restrictions that have been put in place impacted UNC Pembroke's women's soccer program?
Well, within our soccer program, John, we always talk about how during the fall you play soccer. The soccer season is insane. We play too many games in too short a period of time. And if you ask any college soccer coach at Division I or Division II level, and I obviously don't represent them all and I don't speak for them all, but I think the vast majority would say that our season is too short and we play too many games within too short a period of time, meaning we don't really have the time to train. I would prefer to play one game a week and the training would be better. So we always say we play soccer in the fall, we get better in the spring, and you win championships in the summer because collegiate athletes, soccer athletes are going home over the summer and spending basically 3 months on their own. And if you don't train at that time, you can't win championships. If you're not committed at that time, you cannot win championships. But the spring is crucial to getting better technically. It's crucial to getting better tactically. It's crucial to implementing, say, a new system of play or tweaking things that you've always wanted to do. Did you want to improve your transitional play? Did you want to improve your midfield play? Did you want to improve your link-up play? Did you want to improve the way you defend, the way you press, or the way you choose not to press in the attacking third? All those things that we work on every year, obviously different things from year to year, have now gone out the window. So I think this college soccer season coming up, fingers crossed and prayer said that we do have a college soccer season this fall. I think it's going to be unique because athletes are coming off, well, they're going to be coming off of the 5 months of being on their own. So obviously this presents an enormous challenge to us, and we are now forced to communicate with our student athletes through social media, through GroupMe, through text messages, so on and so forth. And we're trying to encourage them, and we're trying to challenge them, and we're trying to make them understand the importance of staying on task and doing what they need to be doing at this time. But yes, these are truly unique and challenging times, and I think this soccer season, the 2020 soccer season, is going to be, the teams that are going to be successful are going to be the teams that are doing the right things now, that are winning, quote unquote, the spring. So this is truly going to be a unique and interesting fall 2020.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it's tough, obviously, for UNC Pembroke, but for everyone as well. And this is a program that has become year in and year out pretty much an NCAA tournament team, and even you look around the country too. Again, everyone is impacted by this. So how much do you think this situation will impact the quality of play come the fall?
Well, I'm hoping, and I know there's been talk about this, and this is sort of ever evolving as NCAA is reacting to things that are happening, but there has been talk about an extended preseason, which I have been an advocate for a long time. This, at one point, we had 10 days for our preseason. Now we have 5. I've always said that creates more injuries. There's statistics to back that up. Because if you only get 5 days, you're not going to take any time off. You're not going to shorten any training sessions. You're just going to get after it and try to get just cram as much in there as you can. I would love to have a 10, 14-day preseason, maybe with some restrictions on how many times a day that you can touch the ball. Maybe you only can have one training session a day, 2 hours a day that you can be on the ball, but could you have another 90 minutes maybe or so that you could do, technical work, that you could do speed and agility, conditioning, so on and so forth. I'm really hoping, and I have a lot of faith in the NCAA. I think there are going to be some changes made to preseason, and I think that will be helpful. Otherwise, I think it's going to be a matter of, really making sure you're in tune with your student athletes, making sure that you work with your athletic training staff. Where we're fortunate, we have Miss Alyssa Price as our athletic trainer. She's outstanding. She's been with soccer for a long time here and her previous institution. So that will be an even more important relationship to know where are the student athletes, how much are we pushing them? Are we pushing them right up to the edge, or are we going over that line, and are we doing damage to them as far as long-term effects on the season? So, again, this is going to be a unique season, but I'm fingers crossed hoping that NCAA will make some adjustments because I think we will need more time to prepare, maybe delaying the season, the start of the season a week. Again, these are decisions that I won't be making. The NCAA will have to make, but I'm hoping. So far, I think they've had a very good response in some of the things they've done, as they react to COVID-19. But these are things that we will learn as we go along, and we will make the adjustments. And obviously, our compliance officer, our athletic director, our administration has been very good at communicating these ever-evolving rules, to us, and we will adjust accordingly. I have confidence in my team. I have confidence in the coaching staff. I have confidence in our athletic training staff and our administration. We will be ready come 2020 soccer season for sure.
I want to ask you a little bit about your experience at UNCP, because at least in my eyes, you have one of the more fascinating stories, and we've talked about it a lot in the Black and Gold report and everything. I mean, you're from Sweden initially. You play soccer at a very high level over in Sweden, and that you come to the U.S. At a point you played college football in the U.S. Then you get into coaching. That's a very, very brief summary there. But fact of the matter is, you've been a lot of places. You've been around the world. You've done a lot of different things. But now you're in your 18th year at UNC Pembroke. As somebody who's been at a lot of different places around the world, what is it about UNCP that's special and keeps drawing you back?
Well, I started the program in 2001, John, and I've said this, and I made no bones about this. When I first came to Pembroke, I thought it was going to be a 4 to 5 year kind of stepping stone, and that I was going to move on. But there's something special and unique about the university, the town, the community, and the greatest asset that we have at UNC Pembroke is truly the people that we have. And when I say the people of Pembroke, I don't just mean the university, but the community. It is a phenomenal place. It is a phenomenal place to work. It is a phenomenal place to move around in. And it became clear to me after I'd spent a couple of years at UNC Pembroke that this could be the school where I finish out my coaching career. And, I'm always honest and upfront, and I say, never say never. Swedish women's national team calls, I'll think about it, right? But the university, if you come to the town, if you spend some time in the area, you will soon pick up on how special it is and how special the people are and what a unique university we have. And I never take that for granted. I embrace that, and I appreciate that every day that I come to work. I love my job, and at this point in my career, I really can't see myself working any other place. Again, I'm going to reserve one. If the Swedish women's national team calls, I will answer the phone call. I will say that much. But other than that, I can't imagine, and I say that jokingly, obviously. I can't imagine working any other place. I feel honored and privileged to work at the University of North Carolina at Pembroke.
I want to wrap up with a fun question for you, and I have a feeling that you will give a fun answer on this. Okay, what is your go-to karaoke song? Well,
John, if you had ever heard me sing, you would know that karaoke is probably not an activity you're going to catch me in because I can't sing, I can't dance, and I don't have any rhythm. But I did at one point many years ago over at a buddy's house try to perform "Living on a Prayer," Bon Jovi, and I believe the game was Guitar Hero, but you could sing along with it.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I received out of 100 a grade of 42. So I was disappointed. I felt like I really nailed it, and I feel that there's a flaw in the game. So if I had to perform at a karaoke bar, I'd say "Living on a Prayer," Bon Jovi would be the song that I would go to. I am a child of the 80s. I am a big hair 80s hair bands kind of guy. So that would be my go-to song for sure.
I don't know. I think your fellow Swedes may be a little upset you didn't say an ABBA song.
True. Dancing Queen could be another go-to song if I had to use it for sure.
Coach, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and congratulations on the continued success of your program. You've built a really special team, and again, thanks again for joining me.
Thank you, John, and I look forward to seeing you as well as the rest of the SID team come fall. I'm fingers crossed we're back. We can't wait for the season to start.
That'll do it for today's episode of Brave Hawk Talk right here on the UNCP Sports Network. Big thank you to all of you for joining us, and also to Scotland Health Student Athlete of the Week, Katie Flax of the UNCP Golf Team, and UNCP Soccer Head Coach Lars Anderson. We will be back again on Friday with a brand new episode, but in the meantime, make sure that you are following us on all of our social media platforms. Subscribe to us right here on YouTube. Follow us at UNCP_sports, and make sure to like us on Facebook, UNCP Athletics. I want to end by thanking, from the bottom of my heart, all of those, the front lines of the COVID-19 pandemic, the healthcare workers, the public officials, the essential employees, all of you who are doing everything that you can to keep everyone safe, keep everyone healthy. Thank you again, and we will talk to you all again on Friday.